So we are in Paris attending the NECSTouR General Assembly, and we have with us Mr. Peter de Wilde, who is the president of NECSTouR and the CEO of Visit Flanders. Thank you for being with us, first of all.
Thanks for having us.
So we are at this General Assembly of NECSTouR. Could you please tell us a little bit about the agenda these 2 days?
Well, the agenda of today is the agenda of the highest governing body of the organization, which is the General Assembly. And the General Assembly traditionally decides on the business matters of the organization, like, for instance, the budget, the membership, and so on. And that has been talked about and approved without any difficulty. The second part of the agenda is the more strategic part, and it's about the transition pathway of the organization and of tourism in Europe itself. And here, of course, this is really a topic that is a strategic shift for the organization, because it means that we are putting into question all that we have been doing and putting it in another framework, looking at the future and using strong strategic principles to make our tourism in Europe stronger, to make local communities more flourishing, and to do the same for the visitor economy, as we call it.
So how can you comment about the important decisions that you are taking today, these 2 days, regarding the way NECSTouR responds to the European tourism challenges?
Well, the European tourism challenges are largely the global tourism challenges, of course.
Sure.
And they're not new, because we might think that some of these problems surfaced when COVID hit the world. But all of the problems that we know today, the climate change, the skills issue, finding good staffing, and so on, they're all problems that we already faced before. And they're inherent to the whole ecosystem of tourism. So it's talking what we're doing now. We've been doing this for quite some years. Some of the organizations have been setting in place a new strategy that can tackle all of these problems and that tackles the basic issue itself, the ecosystem of the tourism itself. What we're doing today is also making this strategic shift for the strategy of NECSTouR. And the strategic shift is about not putting tourism as the goal of what you're doing, tourism first, but using tourism as a pathway to better communities. We already engaged with this in our Barcelona declaration of a few years back, which is titled very strategically also, Better Places to Live, Better Places to Visit. So when places are better places to live, when local communities can thrive and can be content and happy where they live, and proud ambassadors of their place, they're also more open to welcome people and share what they love. If you and I have a common interest, we can talk about this. We're sharing the passion that we have.
True.
People that are feeling a connection, a warm connection with the place where they live, are natural ambassadors for the destination, but they're also the key essential part of a destination, that is the local community in itself. So the tourism policy here is not so much a tourism policy as it is a social policy of making stronger local communities and making preserving the soul of places and the soul of destinations.
But may I ask you how you think tourism can contribute to that approach?
The how question is, of course, the second step.
Yeah.
The first question is acknowledging that we need to make this transition, because it's a paradigm shift. And this paradigm shift, we can see it globally. There is a need globally of stepping away from the tourism experience as a reusable and resellable, duplicatable product that people can buy, and that is a process, as, for instance, car production is, towards a more added value proposal, where people can go and look for added value in their lives, and local communities also can define what added value is for the enjoyment of the place where they live. So how can we do this? How can we bring this about? It's very interesting, because we believe, and that has not changed with COVID, we believe that all policy decision needs to be based on research and on knowledge. So making a new strategy, you do it based on policy, on research. For instance, when we speak about the carrying capacity of a destination, that is good, because we learned how to measure this. What we need to learn how to measure and to appreciate is the carrying capacity, is the carrying capacity of local communities. How much are local communities willing to share what they love? Because we believe that once you love something, you will be more inclined to share it. When you see that people are trying, or voluntarily or no, doing damage to the thing that you love, the experience or the place that you love, then you're very protective and you don't share. So the caring capacity of local communities is really at the core of what we do, and you can try to measure this by having a good, thorough conversation, by having good questionnaire, by having an examination of local residents' attitudes towards visitors and towards the tourism process.
You mentioned earlier that about the difficulty of finding good staff nowadays, something that it seems that happened just after COVID. Probably a lot of people left tourism because they lost their jobs, they found a job somewhere else, and then maybe they did not come back. So it seems that tourism nowadays on a global scale is losing some good talents. Why do you think that happens? Is there a possibility that this will change? What do you think?
Well, I think it's a movement that was already going on before COVID. Tourism is typically a sector that provides jobs to people who have less schooling. So it's a very accessible sector. But we have to be honest with ourselves and ask ourselves whether the employment conditions, the working hours, the payment of people, if they were really fair. Because we expect, as a traveler, we expect service from the morning to the night. We expect everything to be of the highest quality. If we expect that, we have to be honest with the working force, pay them accordingly, and have more than enough staffing in order to have decent working hours for people. I don't think that was the case, and I'm generalizing now because, of course, there are many perfect examples where there was a quality rewarding for the staff, but I don't think that's the general case. When you look at tourism as a production process of duplicatable experiences, and you look at it in an economic context, the traditional economic context is to, of course, to cut costs, to produce as much as possible at the lowest cost possible. This is not what tourism is about.
Sure.
Destinations are not to be sold, as we always say. Destinations are to be cherished and to be shared. And putting a price on sharing is difficult because you're tapping into passion of people. When people are passionate about what they're doing, I think they're willing to go the extra mile, but then you don't have to exploit their passion by paying them less or giving them lousy working conditions. So it all connects to each other. And if we see now that there is a problem, people who have experienced an absence of work in the tourism business during Corona, many of them started thinking, is this what I want with my life? And that's not only in tourism, that is in many of the dozens of sectors in Europe that we're struggling with now to find a working force. People ask themselves, is this what I want to be doing? I've experienced another balance. Do I want to go back to the rat race? And many enterprises, global enterprises, they think that going back as fast as possible to the pre-corona sales figures and conditions is the way to go.
Okay.
There is never a way of going back. You always have to look forward, and you have to acknowledge the problems that we already had and for which Corona was just a catalyst, and embrace those problems and tackle them and take them on and find a solution. If we want tourism to be about passionate sharing, then we have to be warm employers also who acknowledge the needs of the tourism business.
So why you think that the regional tourism leaders are called to be change makers? How can Europe support your organization in your commitment to ensure that tourism becomes a driver of prosperity?
That's, of course, a basic goal, to have flourishing communities, and prosperity, of course, is an important element there. Happiness is an important element. A better environment is an important element. The basic point for an organization like NECSTouR that brings together tourism regions around Europe is the statement that in which we firmly believe that the regional level is the exact correct level to tackle these problems. The regional level is one step away from the local. Many local authorities don't have the manpower or don't have the capacity building, the knowledge, which regions can provide because they assemble many local governments into one platform. The national level is too far away from the local one in many cases. If you were to ask what is the typical Spanish local thinking about, or resident thinking about tourism nowadays, that's not a question you should ask. You could ask people in Catalonia, you could ask people in Navarra, you could ask people in several regions what they think. And then again, why not in cities too? But I do believe that the answers need to come from the level that is exactly capable of giving these answers. And I believe that's the regional one. You're one step away from the local one, but close enough to the local one. And the regions, since Europe was founded after the Second World War as a community and as an economic reality, the regions have always played, in regional development, have always played a very important part. And regional development and tourism, of course, are two elements that belong together. You cannot be a warm and hospitable region if you do not develop the region itself to be ready to embrace the visitors who want to come. And development and promotion, of course, are two sides of the same coin. You cannot promote what is not developed, and you should only develop what has grounds, what has the support of local communities, but what also has the interest of the potential interest of a potential international traveler.
Excellent. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.